Hello and welcome everyone. Good morning, good evening, or from anywhere you're joining. So today we'll be discussing, or rather exploring, test observability. What does that mean with NBA, National Basketball Association, right? So we have basically, I have Curtis with me, Curtis Miller. He is from NBA. And Curtis, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Sourav. So my name is Curtis Miller. I work at the National Basketball Association, as mentioned. I've been here a little over a year, primarily setting up all of our test frameworks, architecting out our different solutions based on different needs and product requirements that we have. And I've been in the field, the test automation field, for a little over 13 years total.
Right. So, and I am Sourav. Hi, everyone. So, I am the product manager. I'm a product manager at BrowserStack. I've been working here little over 3.5 years now. And yeah, we have been developing automation products. And today we're going to talk about observability and what that means in the world of testing. And that's also introduce a product that how you can actually do observability for all your automation tests. And this is something we have been building for maybe 9 months or so now. So we'll talk about that. And before BrowserStack, I used to write code for nuclear reactors. So I was an embedded systems engineer and then turned to a product manager, developing products for the quality engineers basically. Right. So moving on, I think just to set some like housekeeping things, right? That this will be recorded, and the recording will also be sent to all the attendees of the session. There will be a dedicated Q&A at the end of the session, and you can use the Q&A section for asking any question, and we'll take those at the end of the session, right? Moving on, right? So to start with the question, right? And there you guys will see a poll show up on your screen. So which is the tool that you currently use for test reporting, debugging, and also analytics to understand, okay, uh, how much of your automation is doing good, or what is healthy, what is not healthy? How do you measure the quality of your automation, and also and also the reporting, right? So we have a bunch of options, like do you use a frameworks reporter, maybe a test management tool, or open source, or whatnot, right? So we'll pause for maybe 15 seconds or so for you to answer the question, and then we'll move on from there. Right. So I think moving on, the agenda for today would be, okay, to start with, what are the problems that are faced by quality engineers for test run verification? When you run test, reports get generated, results get generated. How do you go and verify those results and give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the PRs that are against which the tests are being run, right? And thereafter, we will talk about what does observability in the world of testing mean, and why even we built a product like this. What problems does it solve? Also, we'll talk about how actually we solve those problems, right? We'll actually show you the demo of the product, that okay, how we are actually solving this problem. And also we'll talk about how Curtis and his team at NBA has been using this product and how it has been helping them. And also talk about the vision for the product. What do we want to achieve? What does the future look like, right? So to start with, right, we want to talk about automated test run verification. That's the problem space we want to talk about. So if we talk about automated tests, it could be like your UI tests, it could be your backend tests like API tests, or any kind of tests that get triggered automatically, maybe on a CI pipeline, or you can do it, you can trigger them automatically from your laptop or anywhere, right? So the more you run them, you end up with more results. And the more results you have to verify those results. And when you have more tests to verify, what actually is needed is basically either have to hire more and more engineers on your team, because testing is not decreasing, right? Every day or every month, every year, you're adding more and more tests, more and more automation, or you end up overloading your existing team. So if you have 5 members in your team and you have more and more tests to verify, more and more results to verify, more time of their day will go into doing this, and they will find less and less time to write new automation cases, to do the job, basically what they've hired to do, right? And they'll be spending their time here rather. So for what happens is, on your left, what you're looking at is basically uh, what you need to be doing. Basically, for doing test run verification, you actually have to identify real test failures. You have to segregate signal from noise. You have to then debug the root cause of those failures. And not only that, you have to also communicate it back to the developers. And the developers will also have to reproduce those issues and deploy a fix for faster turnaround time, right? And you also need to be measuring the quality metrics and monitoring the health of your test suite, right? But currently, there are so many problems. On your right, if you look at the what you end up doing today is that every single day you run all those tests, you are manually and repeatedly doing this, basically signal to noise segregation. You're doing it manually. You are, to determine why a test has failed, you have to either reproduce it locally and then go to Chrome DevTools and understand what's happening, or you have to go through logs and you have to go to Jenkins or whichever CI, get logs from there, get logs from somewhere else, and then understand what's happening, right? And all of that takes time, right? Time is money, so it's basically costing you money, and it's also causing a lot of frustration for your engineers, because no one likes to do repeated stuff, right? Every day, if you're doing the same things, it's a waste of energy. It's causing frustration. And as a result of that, what will end up happening is that from time and again, there will be defect creep to production. You might see that, okay, there is a genuine defect which got masked by a flaky test or something, and it crept onto production. You will lose confidence from on your testing. If your stability is not good, if your passing rates are not good, you will not be able to trust your testing that much, right? The reliability will go down. And as a result, the cycle times will also go up, because you are ending up doing a lot of these things manually, right? If we do the math, right, even a small or mid-sized QE team, let's say in a company, if we assume that the 20 members in the quality engineering team, and we talk to a huge amount of customers, huge amount of users, right, that BrowserStack has, and we got answers in the range of 1 hour to 3 hours. That's the range. That's the time every engineer spend every single day doing test run verification. You just do the math, right? Like, that's so many engineering hours, so many dollars spent on doing test run verification alone, right? And industry leaders like GitLab, Slack, engineering, they say that this menace is real. Flaky tests is real. That is costing money. Triaging test failures is a problem. It takes time. It takes a lot of time to manually triage why it is failing, right? So it's basically you spend time doing this activity every single day, and you may not even realize that it is time wasted, because that's the way you know. That's the way you have been knowing the way to work, right? And no one would really be complaining so far. But what we are saying is, like a decade back, tools like Datadog, New Relic, Sentry, and these tools came to the market, right? And they defined the space of observability for production systems. If there is a production system, you need observability for it, because otherwise, if you don't have it, you will not know why something failed in production. So that's when it's a decade old backstory, right? Observability for production systems got introduced. Similarly, what we are saying is, your test cases also need observability. They need end-to-end observability for you to understand what's happening. Is the quality even improving or not, right? And when we looked around in the market, that is there a tool that does all these four things? And we did not find any. And that's basically the reason why we built BrowserStack Test Observability, which we'll be talking about, right? So, Curtis, I would like to ask you, right? So, how did you discover Test Observability, and why did you decide to try it? And for everyone's information, right? Uh, we we just did general availability launch last week, a couple of weeks back, rather. So far, we have been in like alpha and beta, and Curtis has been one of the early adopters. So that's why my question, right? How did you even come to know of test observability, and why did you decide to try it?
Yeah. So discovering test observability was kind of fun for myself because I wasn't privy to any like marketing, or I wasn't driven there by anything on BrowserStack side. We were working on our POC for iOS and Android mobile test automation through BrowserStack. And just in working through that, we wanted to have our descriptors for our tests and our test name scenarios to be displayed with their proper results and statuses inside of BrowserStack's dashboard. So just reading through the documentation and looking at different capability sets that we could provide, one of the different params or properties was test observability. And the documentation just mentioned by setting that to true, you'd be able to pipe all of your test result data into the dashboard on BrowserStack. It was quite by accident, though, that it came with the entire feature of test observability itself. I didn't realize we'd be gaining so much access to more than just our test names, our pass-fail rate, and the basic data that we get on the BrowserStack dashboard. We actually got a whole lot more than what I had expected initially.
Nice to learn that, right? So I think, okay, let me talk about, like, since I have now introduced what observability is and what problems we are solving, I will go deeper into exactly what are we solving, right? So the first piece that test observability solves is test run verification. And within test run verification, there are two buckets, right? The bucket A would be auto identifying false failures and letting you jump to the relevant failures, and also understanding why the root cause of failures, basically. And once you've identified that, okay, this is a genuine failure, it will help you also debug the root cause, not just that it's just a genuine failure. It will also help you debug exactly what is happening, right? So let me actually take you through the product, right, and show you how you can use test observability to actually dramatically speed up your test run verification process and save all those engineering hours that I was talking about, right? So let me quickly show you the product. Cool. So let's say you are an engineer, quality engineer. You come to office, wake up in the morning, come to office, and you want to see what has happened in last night's regression run. Let's say, so these are all the runs that test observability is showing you. These are all the build runs that you've done for one project, and you can have multiple hundreds of projects spanning across different teams and all of that. It's just one single place for all of your testing data, right? And you come and you want to see, okay, let's say end-to-end regression. Last night I ran. What happened? So it's telling me that in the last night's run, there were so many flaky tests. There were so many new failures that were automatically detected. So imagine, like, in absence of test observability, you would have to go through all the failures, 106 of them, 106 failures. But now test observability is automatically segregating the, like, noise out, basically. The flakiness is noise. Always failing tests, like tests that have been failing always, yesterday, day before yesterday. If you did not care about it yesterday, why should you care about it today? You should not spend any time in debugging tests that even failed yesterday or maybe flaky, right? So we help you clear out all the noise so that you can see what's genuine, which is maybe a new failure, right? And you can actually see what are all the new failures that are there. Not just that, test observability also does something called unique error automatic analysis, right? What that means is, behind the scenes, what we do really is that we run some uh, unsupervised clustering algorithms, machine learning based, unsupervised learning based um, clustering algorithms, which is able to cluster different errors into similarity buckets. Now, what that means is if you have 100 failures, you don't have 100 reasons. The actual number of reasons, or rather common causes, are limited. In this case, only 10. So total 10 unique reasons for all your failures. So imagine without observability, you would have to debug 106 failures. But now, not just we are telling you that there are only 6 new failures, we're also telling you that there are only 10 unique problems. So you can choose to debug only those 10 unique problems and nothing else, right? For example, one single problem, this one, right? And think of this analogy. Let's say you have a login button on your website, and for some reason, the login button did not show up. And because of that, 50 test cases failed. So that's what I'm trying to drive, right? One single cause driving multiple failures. And you can actually understand what those failures are from here itself. For example, this particular failure impacted so many. These are all the test cases that are impacted. And you can also debug the test case with all the logs right here. When I say all the logs, it's really like the video, the logs from the test framework. And if I just were to show you, right, logs from the CI terminal, logs from the test framework, device logs, network logs, console logs, application logs, even backend application logs. So all kinds of logs, all organized in one chronological timeline. This is what we call the timeline debugger. This is one chronological timeline for you to understand what's happening. You go to the bottom of the timeline and see that, okay, there is a failure that has happened. Just before the failure, you see the screenshot that was captured. And you also get to see what else had failed just before the failure. Maybe a network error, maybe a 5xx, maybe a console error, maybe something failed on the application. So with the help of this, you can actually debug really. You don't have to go and grep logs from multiple places. This one single timeline debugger will give you the answer why this test has failed. And not just that, you can also traverse back in time and see the same test case few days back. Was it passing? If it was passing, what are the steps? What does the video look like? What does the logs look like? So you can actually compare between a passing and a failing test right from here as well, right? And that's just the surface of it. We automatically also categorize failure categories. We have a machine learning, a different machine learning engine that categorizes failures into different buckets: automation bug, environment issue, product bug, and whatnot, right? You can also debug by different folders. For example, let's say you have 1,000 test cases. One single engineer will never be responsible for all those 1,000 test cases. So let's say you are responsible for only one module, let's say the sign-in module. So you can only look at that module. So I want to view tests from that module only. So you can actually see the report, and what you're seeing now is actually the report. So far you were looking at the insights. Now you're looking at the test report. So this test report consists of all the tests from that module. For example, this one module, these are all the tests from that module, and this is the report. This report tells me not just what failed, what passed. It also tells me the assertion reason failure, the actual reason, locator change, environment issue. This is basically coming from the machine learning based analyzer, auto analyzed. It is also giving me a quick snapshot of the history. What has been the test case like for the last 10 runs, right? You can trigger reruns from here. You can create Jira tickets from here. You can silence test cases, I think, as in mute them so that they don't bug you. Like let's say there is a faulty test case and you don't want to be bugged about it every day. You can just silence it. It will go into the muted category. It will not show up in the reports until you go and unmute it. You can collaborate with your fellow developers here. For example, hey, what's happening? You can just put a comment at the rate developer. What's really happening? Why is it failing? And that guy will get to know that, okay, someone has actually tagged me and I have to come and check. So you have everything built over here itself, and needless to say, right, you can debug from here as well. All the logs, all the The timeline debugger experience that I showed you, everything is present here as well, and all the different filters, everything, right? So this, along with the timeline debugger, is your one-stop shop for you to do the end-to-end test run verification that I was talking about. This should save you a lot of time, right? So I think going back, right, going back to to where I started. So this is how you will actually end up saving a lot of time, dramatically fast test run verification, right? Now, let me ask this to you, Curtis, right? So far what I have said is what I think about test observability, right? How I built, how rather we built the product, and how we would like to think that okay, this is helping solve so many problems. But but really, tell us, what do you think, and does it really solve that many problems, or is it like the reality is different for your team?
Yeah, no. So this tool. So before the tool, let me give a little background there. Like before the tool, the way that we would tackle a lot of this tracking or this information was done in some other separate sheet, whether it was a Google sheet or whether it was, a Microsoft Excel sheet. But the problem was helping or having the team remember to do these things daily, right? I always try to coach the engineers, like the first step of the day is when you have your coffee or whatever you do when you start up your computer. It's like checking your email and checking your messages, right? It should be checking your analysis, your test run results. But what we would have to do is take the results from our pipelines and then bring them into the sheet, and then have to write custom algorithms inside of a sheet to then translate that data out in a meaningful way. Whether that be first time failure, right? That's a huge one. New failures. Because if there's 60 tests failing out of the 340, I don't necessarily care about all 60, right? And this tool already solves that problem by kind of shaking it through some kind of diffuser and giving you only the things that you need to worry about first. But just beyond that, whether you're at an API level, a UI level, UI web versus mobile, the tool itself provides so much more detail in a granular sense for your failures. The fact that when you hover over a failure specifically and you see a screenshot or a video, it's not the full 5.5, maybe 10-minute video that you get on the regular BrowserStack dashboard, which is helpful, but it's actually a pinpointed snippet of the exact moment in time when your test might have failed. That is by far more helpful than this giant 10-minute scrubbing. And I can't even put kind of a time saver to it, just because before we weren't really tracking how long it would take. I just know that was a lot of our day. It didn't matter whether you were a junior engineer, a mid-level, a senior on our team. It just took a lot of time going through the test analysis, trying to find the results that are accurately matching, possibly doing reruns, because that's always people's first gut instinct is, if I rerun it and it passes, it's fine. But I like to push back on that a lot about reruns. That's a whole nother topic probably for test results and flakiness. But the idea is this tool now takes the need for a rerun right away out of the scenario and allows you to focus more on actually what failed, diving into the data around it. And honestly, like I can't see going back to the old way now. Like I couldn't go back to a Google Sheet. I'd have to have this tool, or we'd have to build something like this to do this exact thing right away.
Got it. Got it. Thanks for that, Curtis. So I think moving on, I promised three things, right? So first thing we talked about was test run verification. Test observability is not only about that. Test observability is also about uncovering the top issues. It is okay. So okay, let me talk about it like this. We are saving time, right? We are saving time, for precious time for engineers, right? But what do you want to do with that time saved, right? We actually want you to invest that time back and improve the quality of your automation. How would you do that? So you would first have to understand what are the problems in automation, and where I should be focusing my energy and fixing those problems, right? So that, like, the end state goal for every one of us is basically better quality, right? Better quality of the product, better quality of automation, and better quality of everything. That's what quality engineers do. So let me take every one of you to the next part of the demo. which is basically how to uncover the top problematic test cases and also the top errors that is impacting test suite stability, and what can you do about it? How can you go about solving that, right? So taking to the next part of the demo. So there's something called tests health. So what test health shows us is the overall health of the entire automation suite, basically that project. And you may have multiple projects. For example, this is one single project. You may have 10 different projects. You will be able to see health of all those projects. And one project, ideally, it should be structured in such a way that each repo or each repository or each pipeline is one project, so that you know that, okay, project A is different, project B is different, project C is different, right? So what this tells you is that, okay, you have so many, the average failure is, it is so high. And you're looking at 7 days of data. You could be looking at 30 days, 6 months, 1 year, even 2 years of data, right? So let me take a look at maybe 30 days of data. And there is, sorry, let me just go back to 7 days. We don't have that many long data. So let me take an example. For example, this test, right? This test is 60% failure rate. And okay, you can use this as a tool to understand what are the top problematic test cases. What are the test cases that are failing the most? What are the test cases that are slowest the most? Because you also have average duration, right? And what all platforms are these test cases running against? For example, this one. You go inside, and what you see is all the executions of this test case across a different time span. Now, what you're looking at is green, red, all interlaced, right? But imagine you have a test which used to be green. So you see that, okay, it was green, and suddenly it started becoming green, red. So basically, what it means is at some point in time, it became flaky. And you can actually go and deep dive into that point in time, exactly that point in time, in the entire timeline of maybe 2 years or like 3 months or 6 months, whatever the relevant timeline for you is, right? And once you do that, you can also go and fire up the timeline debugger from here as well. So it's the same drill, right? The same log, same video, same everything, but the context is different. You are now debugging uh, the top problematic test cases, and this tool will help you actually pinpoint the issue and also understand what's happening and then go about fixing that issue, right? And not just that, you can also be looking at the different platforms. Let's say this test case, and you're running the same test case against multiple platforms. You can actually see what is the failure rate. Is it different for different platforms and whatnot, right? That is the story for test health. Similarly, there is another story for unique errors. So using observability, you can also understand what are the top impacting errors that is causing the most amount of havoc in the test suite, right? For example, this one, right? This is impacting 24 tests, so 1100 times in the last 7 days, right? That's magnanimous. Like you might want to just check it out, what's happening, which all test cases is it impacting, how is it impacting, where did the problem start, and just go about and fix it. The same drill, right? You can also like zoom into any timeline, open up the timeline debugger. You can do all of that from here as well. So essentially, test observability will let you uncover what are the top problematic tests, what are the top problematic errors, and you choose what you want to solve. You choose, and then once you choose, observability will also give you all the data points against that test or that error for you to understand what's the problem and then thereby go and solve it, right? So just by now, okay, now we are already generally available. There are thousands of customers already. Unique errors is one of the top liked features among all our users. I can say that with pride, maybe, because what people are saying is that, and I'll get back to you and ask the same question back to you, Curtis. So, but what people have been saying is that only by using unique errors and solving maybe the top 5 or top 10 errors, they're able to improve the stability of the test suites, and that is evident from the data as well. So someone had 60% stability after using observability for a month. We see that the stability has gone up by 10%, by 15%. That is something that data is telling us. But again, Question back to you, Curtis. So how do you think it's helping? Is it really helping you? And if it is helping you, then how exactly?
Yeah. So unique errors, I go back to this because that's where we want to start, right? So we go through, we look at all of our test results from the last night's runs or the early morning runs it might be. And new failures are great, but that still is one bucket that you can use to kind of calculate and understand where your latest errors or issues from nightly builds are coming from. But when you take it and you can even break it down further, say you had 10 new failures, but it was one solid, unique error, that helps you identify the one pain point that you may have that's causing the 10 other new issues to pop up, right? So what we can do now is take that data and actually even break it down further and get a more clear picture of what's causing a failure that's cascading across multiple tests. Plus, it's a one fix shop, hopefully in that case, right? And it saves people time from trying to analyze 10 different issues that they then find out, oh, all 10 of these are the exact same. Well, you just wasted 4 hours possibly, when with a tool like this, you can go in and see that it has one unique error across all 10. Let's fix that one error. It probably will fix all 10. You could do your verification instead of wasting 4 hours of debugging. Now you can waste maybe a half hour and find that it fixes all issues. It's definitely clever, and it's something that we can't get in an Excel sheet. That's for sure. It's not that simple.
Right. So I think moving on to the last problem, right? So, okay, so far, whatever we showed is going to help the engineer's life, right? They can actually go and understand what the issues are, go and deploy a fix and be happy about it, right? But there's also this need for managers, right? Even managers want to measure the quality metrics over a period of time. And they also want to hold their teams accountable that, okay, team A, are you doing what you're supposed to do? Are you writing as many tests as you're supposed to write? Are you, uh, is the quality of your automation good, or are you just writing flaky tests, right? So that could be important things, and those are important things for any QA manager or any director level person, right? So they would want to measure all these metrics. And let's just take a look how observability solves that problem as well, right? So going on to the product, so there's something called testing trends, and testing trends is one stop place for the manager, or rather the leader, to come and see what's happening. Everything that's happening is right here. They can take a quick look at what all the latest unique build runs, latest sanity, latest regression, latest API, what's happening. How has the flakiness trends been like for the project? For example, I'm looking at 7 days data. But let me look at 30 days data, let's say. So this has been the flakiness trends. So this is dummy data, right? So you'll see flat lines everywhere because I'm just running the same tests every day to my GitHub Actions account. But real data will not be like this. Real data will tell a story, right? For example, flakiness. If you had an OKR, or rather a target or a KPI to decrease the level of flakiness, you should ideally see this chart going down. You should see that flakiness is improving over a period of time. If you see a spike, you can actually go and check. You can actually drill down into the data and see that, okay, what has happened, what has changed on that particular day, right? You can measure stability across a period of time, performance in the build duration. How much time is the job taking? Is it? And there are users, there are customers who have told us that, okay, they have this KRIs to reduce their build time, and they want to keep measuring it. That is it really happening? Failure categories are, what all are the categories of failures? Is it like most of your automation is getting impacted by environment issues and not really failures? Might be a good idea to take this graph or take this metric back to your DevOps teams and just tell them to just fix the environment. Your environment is causing more issues for my team than what real bugs are, right? New failure, like each of these things, they tell a story. For example, new failures, right? These new failures track unique test cases that has failed at least once in a set period, right? A high value would obviously indicate suboptimal dev quality. If if there are many new failures, that would mean the blast radius is huge. there are lots of tests getting impacted by the code changes, which may mean either the code quality is poor because they end up breaking a lot of tests, or your test quality is poor. Something is broken. That's for you to understand what's broken and then fix that, right? Similarly, always failing tests. No quality engineering team will want 45% of the tests to be always failing, right? That's really, really bad. So these are some of the important metrics for any quality engineering team to keep a check on. And similarly, unit test case growth. Are you writing new automation test scenarios over a period of time, or are you just sticking with the existing? Like for example, my case is like every day I'm running the same, right? How frequently are you running them? How frequently? What's the scale of your testing, right? And what all device browsers and combinations are you testing against, right? So in a nutshell, and we're adding more and more metrics, and we're also building something called a customizable dashboard for which quality teams will be able to create dashboards with the metrics that they want across projects, across different kinds of permutations and combinations. For example, someone might say that, okay, I don't want to look at the entire project. I want to look at only my folder or my module. I just want to look at my module and the health of my module over a period of time. I could create a dashboard like that. So that is something we're building, right? So this is how you can keep track of everything that's important and also hold the teams accountable, right? So yeah, so that's what testing trends is, and that's how you can actually keep measuring quality metrics, measure progress, and also in the process you improve quality, right? So I think, like always, question back to Curtis. So do you think do you think do you think this is important, first of all? Because in my conversations with a lot of customers, they mostly did not do that. They feel the need for it, but they did not used to do it. So what do you think? This is important. Did you used to do it before test observability?
Yeah.
How
Yeah, all of the above. I think metrics are super important, especially from that leadership manager level. Like as an architect, I want to understand the ins and outs of all of our tests. I want to know performance. I want to know what capabilities are we running against, right? I want to understand when we add new tests, are they bad tests, right? The engineer skill set level. It also helps kind of track for those OKRs or those KPIs. We have tons that we're always trying to hit, different measurements of how we are successful as an automation team. We have our own goals that we want to reach, but we have company goals as well that we need to help support. So in order to find and fix issues in tests, you have to have these basic metrics, but this dashboard that you just showed, the test report structure, has so much more than just your generic ins and outs of test pass or fail. I could actually drive a meeting from that dashboard alone to upper management to help understand where we're at, where we're trying to get to, also help level set and understand like what these tests are doing. And I don't have to get into the code to do that. I don't have to go to a big meeting and try and demo all of our tests in a very short window. I can say, this is what our tests are doing. This is where our stability is. This is where our app stability is. And that's kind of a key piece too when it comes to this. Is it's not about trying to prove that your tests are good. It's about proving that your tests are finding issues or that your tests are understanding your application, right? A lot of times we spend a good chunk of our time trying to figure out what our application is doing under test. In that case, these metrics can help drive, do we really understand our application from a fundamental level, or are we just kind of throwing stuff at a wall, hoping something sticks? This whole flow can really help solve that problem. And I have a curiosity about the statement of, well, we understand that metrics are important, but we've never really gotten to it. I wonder if that's also kind of an effect of not having the right amount of time or putting too much time in manually analyzing things versus having a tool like this that can bring that, data. I mean, that's a huge shift in mindset right there.
Right. I think it also boils down to the fact that how much time did you really have? Like,
Yeah.
you like quality engineering teams are already like they're always running behind. Like they have to deploy something every day, right? They're under tremendous pressure. So who has time in their life to do this, right? So that's also there. So Cool. I think moving on. So, few more things about test observability, right? So we already saw the product. What this applies to and how can you get started is that okay, this is a very generic SDK that we have built for each framework, right? You need not invest more than 5 minutes of your time to get the integration done, right? It's like 2-3 lines of code change, maybe in the config files, and that's it. It's also platform agnostic. What that means is your tests need not necessarily be running on BrowserStack. They could be running anywhere. You could be running your test on your laptop, on your CI machine, or even some other cloud vendor. So we are generous that way, right? Like we support everything. You could tests could be running anywhere. And it also supports popular frameworks. And even if we don't support the framework yet, for example, there are tons of frameworks, right? Like 30, 40 frameworks, more than that. We don't support everything yet. So in all those cases, you can always use JUnit XML reports. So JUnit is a pretty much open standard, right? You can generate a JUnit XML report for pretty much anything. And you can just upload those reports and get observability with that as well. And this applies to all kinds of tests, not necessarily only the UI test. It could be a backend test, it could be unit tests as well, right? So all kinds of tests running anywhere through anything, you can get test observability. And as a matter of fact, a lot of our users have told me that one of the things they like is they get to see everything in one umbrella. They don't have to go to multiple things, to multiple tools. And in many companies, the scenario is like one team is using, let's say, Allure report, another team is using something else for their reporting. But the manager, or rather the director, they want to get a holistic, one single pane of glass view for everything. So they find it very intuitive and useful because this helps them consolidate everything and give them a bird's eye view of everything that's happening and hold teams accountable, right? So, question not to Curtis this time. This time the question is for everyone else. Would you like to explore test observability for your team? There would be a poll that would come up, that would show up on your screens. Uh, if you choose yes, definitely we'd get in touch with you with with more with more data about how this can help your specific team's needs, and we could help you get onboarded to the platform and make the best use of the product so that you can actually improve, or rather elevate quality, as we say, right? So yes, I'll pause for a few seconds and take your time to answer. Yeah, cool.
So I actually wanted to throw out a quick question. Obviously, as early adopters, we've been super excited about using test observability. But I think the question I always come back to you with after our talks or our discussions, whenever we meet, is like, what's new, what's coming up next, what's exciting, because test automation field is always changing, ever growing. So is there anything exciting or new that I can be looking forward to coming up?
I think you pretty much like stole my next slide. So I wanted to talk about this exactly, right? So what's in store for the future, right? So I also wanted to talk about the vision, right? Like not just what's in store in the next 3-4 months, but maybe the larger vision of this product, right? Or this line of product rather. So what we want to do is we want to help solve developer pain points, right? Any quality engineer, we want to help uh, take away all the manual struggles from that guy's life, right? So test run verification, understanding what are the issues. If I say that okay, today you need 2 hours, and with observability you maybe will end up needing only 15 minutes to do the run verification. Yes, that's a huge win, but we don't even want you to spend 15 minutes. We want you to spend 0 minutes. We don't want you to at all come to test observability dashboard. All the product that I showed you, I don't want you ever to come to this product. So that's the ultimate aim. You should never come. You should never come to this product. You should never come to this product. So that's the ultimate aim. You should never come to this product. So that's the ultimate aim. You should never come to this product. So that's the ultimate aim. You should never come to this product. So that's the ultimate aim. You should never come to this product. So that's the ultimate aim. You should never come you should never have a need to come to observability. Everything should work flawlessly for you. Things should just work. You should be able to go from CI to CD, like continuous deployment. You're writing code, creating PRs, tests are running, passing, and things are getting deployed. You come to observability only when things break, and that is once in a while, not every day. That's the vision. That's the vision of this product, right? So we realized that for many years we have been saying CI/CD, CI/CD, and we have been throwing these words around a lot, right? But very, very, very few. I can probably count them by hands. Very few automation teams are able to do CD, which is continuous deployment. They simply can't because that test never really pass. Always, there's always something failing. There's always something flaky. You can do continuous deployment with maybe unit tests for your backend code, not with UI tests, not with end-to-end tests. Very rarely a company is able to do that, right? We want users to be able to achieve CD. And how? You will be building quality gates. I'm just talking about one particular feature, quality gate, that will help achieve CD. Similarly, build compare. For example, today you're looking at one build, you can seamlessly compare it with a master build. So like you can compare two things side by side and it will tell you the diff. Okay, this is a build from master as in like something on production. And that build also had 60 failures, let's say. And you have this new build which has 61 failures, just one new failure, and you're saving all the trouble, right? You don't even have to compare with yesterday. You can just compare with some random master. That's build compare. We'll support more CI tools for read and features, Slack integration, custom notifications, alerting. So all the use cases covering the quality engineer, his manager, and his manager. So basically, the needs of the entire hierarchy of quality engineering, we're going to cater to all of those, right? So this is a very small snapshot of the entire vision, but in reality, we want to solve all the problems that come for automated test run verification. Anything adjoining to that, we want to solve all of that under this product. So yeah, I think, and we have reached towards the last segment, which is Q&A. So we'll take a few questions and then probably we'll wrap it up. So let me see, and guys, you can actually post questions in the Q&A even now. We'll take those questions, right? So there's a question from Mark. Is there a way to integrate test observability even if it's an API automation framework? Yes. I think we already answered that, but yes, any kind of test you can integrate. Even if the framework is not supported, you can integrate using JUnit reports. And by the way, let me just go out of the way a little. I will come back to Q&A, but let me show you guys something cool. So any of you, right now, you can go to BrowserStack.com right now as we speak. And don't worry, I'm not asking you to sign up or anything. So go to BrowserStack.com. Under products, you can see Test Observability. So that will take you to the landing page, which talks about the value and marketing stuff, right? We don't want to go there. I want to take you to the sandbox. Don't even read anything that's written there. Go to the sandbox. No login required, no sign up required. I'm not even asking for your email ID. So just go and play with this sandbox. Everything that I showed you on the demo, you can actually see it on the sandbox and play around with it and pass it on to as many people, your colleagues, your friends, everyone. I'm not asking for any commitment from any of you, like not even an email ID. So that is something cool we just built last week, and we want you guys to play around with it, the sandbox, to get the experience, right? And understand what the value really will be when you will actually integrate your own project. Or ultimately, we want want you to do that. But before that, you can just go around and play with it. So yeah, coming back to the Q&A, I think we'll take it. We'll take it one by one. So yes, it's possible. API automation, I think we answered that. Next one is there a way to export bulk test reports from BrowserStack? From BrowserStack. Okay. So we do have downloading functionality. You can download PDF reports. You can share this across to anyone you like. We don't have bulk download functionality yet. So let's get in touch. You can get in touch with me, drop me an email, um, and we can understand the use case better. And if it's valid, then we'll probably build it, the bulk export functionality. There's a question from Davis. Are there any recommended reporting tools or libraries that can integrate with most automation testing frameworks and are highly configurable? I would say observability. So go ahead and integrate with observability, and we have a hell lot of configuration options that you can do. And I think we already discussed a lot of those things, right? So yeah, so go ahead and give it a try. Mm, uh, there's a question from Srikant Bitlu. What is the basic technical knowledge required to access this tool? I think nothing. You just need to have a test automation in place. Have 10, even if you have 10 tests, that is also good enough. We don't say that this is meant for advanced users only. No, not at all. What we are saying here is that, okay, even if you have 5 tests, don't start with the basic reporter. Start with observability. Because if you do that, you will never even end up with the flakiness problem in your life. So start the right way is what I like to say whenever someone asks me this question, right? So there is no automation maturity level required. This is not meant for advanced users only. This is also meant for beginners as well, right? And and if you do that, if you do start with this in your journey, I think you'll never go back to anything else. You will never know how to do it in any other way. So yeah. Okay, there's a question from Igor. Which changes in test framework are needed for integration with the observability SDK, like adding steps, annotations? So, okay, I can answer this question, but Curtis, would you like to take this? Like, what all changes are
Yeah,
required to get to
there's no changes. So the best part is it's honestly it's a configuration addition. Nothing on your test side or your framework side really has to change. You just have to add a couple of items to your I believe it's your BrowserStack JSON file. Off the top of my head, it's been a while since I did it, since we've adopted pretty early, but like Sourav said, it's less than 5 minutes of your time. And all of your results will just start seamlessly popping in through the tool. So no changes on the test side, just a config add, and then you are good to go.
Right. The next question is from Mahamadav, and the question is how to have a logic on each test platform. I'm new to Selenium with the test ng framework. I want each platform to have its own test logic, and I want to change platforms during the test because for the moment I have to declare my platform. So, okay, if you want to have different logic for different platforms, that's possible. Then in that case, you will have to spawn up different builds and then merge them back. So, for example, let's say there is a test A that you want to run on Chrome, and there is a test B that you want to run on Firefox. You just have to make sure that test A is running as like one single build within TestNG, one SDK invocation, and test B runs as another invocation, another different invocation, and there are flags, configuration options possible for you to merge the report back. So in observability, when you come, you will see one single report which has test A running in Chrome and test B running in Firefox. That's possible. There's a next question. How is a flaky test defined? Is a question from Liam. Nice. So, okay, we have a default definition of flakiness, which is basically either of two conditions. Either it passes on a retry attempt, like let's say it failed first and then you retried and it passed. So that is a classic definition of flakiness. Nothing else changed. You just retry the test, it passed. That's one. The second condition rather, is if the test status is flipping, like pass to fail, fail to pass, it's flipping more than 50% of the time for in the last 10 runs. But having said that, this is the definition that we defined as what we think is flaky, but that's not the end of life. you may have a different definition. And hence we built it in a manner that you can actually define your own definition for flakiness. So flakiness definition itself is configurable, and not just flakiness, new failure, always failing, all of these things are configurable. For example, let's say by default, we say a test that is failing today for the first time in the last 5 runs with a new error should be categorized as a new failure. So let's say you have a flaky test that keeps on failing, passing. But today it failed with a new error. That error has not been seen in the last 5 runs. It will still be tagged as a new error. So that's the beauty of this smart tags, right? We call them smart tags. You can actually configure them to suit your needs. So yeah. Azharuddin Khan has a question. Is it available for trial? Yes, definitely it's available for trial. Just go and start using it. Right? Flaky, we have answered. There's a question from Neeraj. Do you have self-healing XPath capability in BrowserStack? No, Neeraj. We don't have a self-healing capability yet, but we are exploring that, and there might be something coming up soon on that path. Veenal has a question. Can you share guide reference to implement test observability in existing frameworks or a short demo on configuration? Nice. I like that question as well. So let me show you how this is possible. You just have to go to documentation. There is something called what is test observability. You just have to go to BrowserStack documentation, go to test observability. You will land up on the screen. This has a sneak peek short 99-second video of what this tool is, what problems it solves, how it solves, and everything. This is like a one-pager for that you can share with anyone and for your own consumption as well. And all the documentation, right, to get started, JUnit report on any framework, anything, any feature, anything. We have extensive documentation, and I will probably just put it down on the chat as well for everyone to consume, right? So you can just go and read the documentation and get started, right? So moving on, just a moment. There is a question from Shrikant. Is this tool designed for performance testing as well? No, not yet. This is not designed for performance testing. But if your performance tests also follow assertion logic, like passing, failing, it can generate a JUnit report. Yes, you can give it a shot, but it is not specifically designed for them. It is designed for functional tests. It is designed for API tests, unit tests, anything that passes or fails. It is designed for that. But in future, we want to cover all other kinds of testing also. For example, accessibility tests, visual tests, performance tests, security tests, all kinds of tests we want to support, but not yet. I think with that, we have come to the end of the Q&A. Thank you so much